You're listening to the Control System Integrators Association's Talking Industrial Automation podcast, where you get to know the people that make modern manufacturing and processing possible. Now, here is your host, Tony Verhoeven.
Thanks for downloading the Talking Industrial Automation podcast. This is a show to help you get to know the people that make modern manufacturing and processing possible. I'll be talking industrial automation with CSIA system integrators and industry partners to get a better understanding of how they help their clients solve manufacturing and process challenges, and how they became successful in their careers. Along the way, we will touch on system integration best practices, technology, trends, and challenges. Whether you are a manufacturer, end user, supplier, or system integrator, I hope you will enjoy the insights CSIA members will bring to this podcast. Hi, it's Tony Verhoeven, and we're talking industrial automation with Jeff Knepper of Canary Labs. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Tony. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Good to see you, and we'll be seeing you, I think, next week in San Francisco at our conference, right?
Absolutely. Wouldn't miss it.
Excellent. We could do this in person, but, I get busy, and you'll be busy talking to our system integrators here, so this works just as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to be here.
Excellent. So I appreciate you taking the time here. Today, we wanted just to help our, system integrators that might be listening, end user clients that might be listening, understand a little bit who you are and what Canary Labs does. And, we'll talk a little bit about maybe trends and things that are happening as well that you can help us understand. Sound good?
Oh, absolutely.
Great. So Jeff, tell us a little bit about your involvement and the company's involvement in CSIA. I think you guys have been a member for some time now, at least several years.
We have, and we look at our role with CSIA of really twofold. Obviously, it has a great value for us. Our main go-to market strategy is through system integrators, and so getting to know the system integrators that are a part of CSIA is really valuable for us. And then the second side is we want to not only just use that as a tool to go to market, but we also are looking for ways that Canary as a company can add value to the integrators, to the other partner members. We've actually had a lot of success in finding other software companies, other hardware companies that we can partner with and serve the community.
Excellent. So you guys have a partner program. Could maybe tell us a little bit about your partner program?
Yeah, sure. It's really twofold. We have a partner program specifically for system integrators, and then we have another partner program that's more for what we consider our database for hire, or we like to call it our historian for hire, where we can help power other people's solutions using our technology. On our actual system integrator program, it's something that we've really tried to shape to make as easy and as integrator focused as possible. And I'd love to give credit to Inductive Automation. We saw what they were doing and love the way they're serving the community and said, hey, why shouldn't we follow a similar business model? And so our integrator program is completely free. The tech support to the integrators, the training, demo software, all of it's free. And we give a universal discount to all of our integrators from day one.
Great. And if you feel free to, you mentioned Inductive Automation, are you guys partners with them? And if you are, great. If there's anybody else you'd like to kind of mention other CSI members that you'd like to mention and build a relationship with them, that would be fine too.
Yeah. So no, we are not officially partners with Inductive Automation. We are members of their third-party module showcase. And so through working with Intellic Modules, we had a module developed so that you can connect Canary to the Ignition platform, meaning that you can, within Ignition, access full Canary features, including our trending dashboards and data historian, without ever leaving Ignition. So not partners, but coming alongside the Ignition community to try to serve them and add to the already powerful tools that Ignition offers.
Great. So talk to me a little bit about what Canary Labs does and kind of like the space that you guys have carved out here. Tell us what historian is and in that area as well.
Sure. So maybe I'll just go back to the beginning. It's kind of a neat story, and I'll give you the brief version. But we are owned by two brothers, Gary and Ed Stern. We are based out of Martinsburg, Pennsylvania, which is a very, very small rural farming town, about 30 minutes south of State College, home of Penn State. Go Lions. And Gary went off to college in the 70s, hit one of the only universities in the country, Taylor, in Indiana, at that time that had a computer. I almost said PC. This would not have been PC days. And Gary, this was his first time of ever even seen a computer. He grew up on a dairy farm and fell in love with it. In fact, he became the first member of his class to use it for a lab, read the manual, and ended up reprogramming the machine to suit his needs. And that launched what became a love affair for he and computing and for coding and programming. And so he went directly from school off to an internship with Grace. It would have been Grace Hopper with the United States Navy, and worked under her for years, helping develop high-speed computing. I believe she actually pioneered nanoseconds. And from that, he saw a need to serve time series data into databases. So this was the cutting edge in the early 80s, and he saw a need for a specific database that could handle sensor data, timestamps, values, and quality readings in the future. And so that's how Canary was born. Born in 1985, and his brother Ed came on board in 85 and started helping with the marketing sales side while Gary was doing the programming. Moved the company back home to Martinsburg in 1992, and we've been here ever since.
So who are some of your early? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was just going to ask you who some of your early clients then here. I mean, it probably wasn't like, was it in manufacturing? Was there some other specialized niche that you guys were working with?
Yeah. So in the early days, a lot of electric, utility, gas, power, refineries. Process manufacturing didn't catch up until quite some time later. I think they were probably closer to the later 90s that they started to see some of the process manufacturing clients. But I believe to date, our oldest client, continual client since 1993, would be Delaware City Refinery.
Excellent. So are there any kind of industries or specialties that you guys are in? Does it make sense for you guys to be kind of, or because of what you guys do to in kind of municipalities and now in process engineering? Is there any kind of like special application that it makes sense for you guys to be in?
Yeah, sure. So we really serve 14 plus industries. Canary is, if you look at us as a company, we really have three different divisions, if you would. We have out-of-the-box software that's designed to store and analyze sensor data. It's management free, no database to manage. It's not based on SQL technology. It's proprietary technology that allows high speed, long-term raw data storage with really fast reads, and then couples it with Axiom, which is our trending and data visualization tool. And so that's our out-of-the-box solution, and that is very scalable. It can service 50 sensors to internally tested over 20 million sensors. But then the second part of our company is more of the subject matter experts and services division. So the first 15 to 20 years of the company's history was really custom jobs that would be custom engineered for clients using this database technology. And we still operate that way. So when we have large oil and gas clients, for instance, that have very complex processes, all over the globe, collecting data from offshore, from different well sites, maybe upstream and midstream operations. A simple out-of-the-box solution isn't enough. And so we offer an entire services division that can bring in our team and help with the integration, help with any product customization, but it's still powered by our database solution. So what we love about that is that the user experience is still one of simple but powerful tools, and then our services side can come in and do custom work and integration to suit the client's needs. And then finally, our third is back to our partner side, where we do a lot of OEM or custom partner solutions.
Great. So is there Is there any particular type of, or I guess a particular project in which maybe you guys can maybe tell us a success story, whether it's oil and gas or anything else where, there was maybe something lacking and then you guys were able to really come in and really give them some great information that wasn't there before?
Sure. So oil and gas makes up generally per year about 25% of our revenue. It's probably the industry that we serve the highest percentage and that we have the most experience and subject matter experts in. Lots of different success stories. One in particular, I think, would be existing SIGNET systems. So SIGNET control network trying to use a SIGNET historian. And the historian itself was having a hard time writing the amounts of data. And there were some challenges in the field with data collection, losing data because of poor communications back to the SIGNET server. And so we have a custom SIGNET collector that can attach to existing SIGNET systems, as well as convert existing SIGNET data into our historian. And using our store and forward technology, we're able to not only just connect at the server level for SIGNET, but we can actually be installed in the field at many different remote sites with poor cellular network communication. And we don't lose data because we can actually store it on site, buffer it, and bring it back when the connection comes up. And so that's been a very popular solution. In fact, recently, just in 2017, we had 3 major gas and oil companies that we solved that exact problem for. So we were really, really pleased. And the one thing we heard from all 3 of them that they favored was our licensing model, which doesn't charge for collectors. So we only license based on tag count and number of users accessing the data, which means that our users can have thousands, hundreds of remote sites collecting data and sending it back to a centralized server without having to pay per site.
So when you say tag count, does that mean like a amount of points of data or kind of a field of data, or what does that mean?
Yeah, so in our industry, we reference a tag as being a sensor or a point or a channel. Mm-hmm. And so we look at it as a timestamp, a T, a value, a V, and a Q, a quality reading. And so we call it a TVQ. And so if you have, for instance, a 15,000 tag server, that would allow you to store 15,000 sensor readings or point readings. And typical, we see 15,000 to 25,000 tag systems, but a single server can handle well over 1 million tags. We actually have a writing speed of 2.5 million TVQ updates per second. So you can scale it to anything, to any size to fit your needs.
So you mentioned that you store the information if there's an outage or some sort of internet outage or weak data point there. So you guys, I would say primarily software, correct? But do you also have hardware or industrial servers as well that store this data? Or are you working with a partner on that? Or
yes, that's a great question. No, we are a software company. We don't get involved in the hardware space at all, or in the control space, just to point out. We are all about the data collection, storage, and then serving the data back up. So our goal is to become a single source of truth so that people throughout the organization have one place to come and receive raw processed data, events, alarms, and aggregated data. But as far as partners, we have a lot of different partners that we work with. One of our recent and really nice success stories is the TossiBox platform, which is a VPN software and hardware combo that helps set up secure VPNs in seconds. And so we've partnered with them in order to be able to push data remotely back to Canary servers or to the Canary cloud.
Very good. Very good. What's happening right now in industrial automation that's really cool? See, any trends or challenges or things that you're noticing right now that you're telling customers about?
Really, I think market disruption is really exciting. For me, I did not have a business-to-business sales background. I had a business-to-client-facing sales background. And when I came into the business-to-business space, I was really surprised at what I consider the lack of customer service that I found inside the industrial hardware/software world. Very convoluted practices, really confusing licensing models, extremely, extremely high prices, poor customer support, generally not just not customer-friendly policies. And I was really, really impressed. I mentioned before, Inductive Automation. I was really impressed when I discovered the Ignition platform and found a company that I thought was very like-minded to what I was used to in the sales and service industry. And Canary had a very similar desire, but maybe not a clear path or a leader to follow down that path. And so in the last 3 years, Canary really has worked hard to change our licensing model, change our pricing, change our service agreements. And I'd love to just highlight those if it's okay. Mm-hmm. So for instance, with Canary, we have changed our licensing model so that we offer unlimited licensing per server and unlimited servers on an enterprise agreement. And the pricing might sound high, but when you compare them to some of our peers and competitors, you'll find that the value there is quite incredible. So a unlimited server sells retail for $198,000. And by server, I don't mean the hardware, I just mean the licensing. And so that's unlimited tags, unlimited users, unlimited Excel add-in, unlimited trending packages, everything that you need to succeed. And then an entire enterprise agreement is under $500,000. So single company, as many license for as many servers as they'd like. And our customer support ranges from 10% to 15% of the licensing package. So what typically would sell for millions and millions and millions of dollars with our peer group on the high end sells with Canary for $198,000 to $498,000. And then the other thing that we've seen a lot of success in is starting to do cloud pricing and subscription pricing. So we have subscription pricing that starts as low as $99 a month, includes a full SaaS model, hosted data in the Amazon cloud, support, software upgrades, training, everything, and can actually be taken to an unlimited model. So we just had a oil and gas customer in 2017 take advantage of our SaaS offering, and they're running thousands and thousands, well, tens of thousands of tags into an Amazon cloud with 99.99999% uptime. So less than 3 minutes of downtime per year with automatic failover. And it's going really, really well. They're very pleased, and it looks like we'll be bringing a Malaysia division for them online this year.
Excellent. So with regards to kind of going back a little bit, you talked about, kind of that there was maybe an old-fashioned approach to customer service, or maybe a lack of customer service. Do you still see that? I mean, we're not going to name names, but do you still see that out there with guys competition, or kind of like people that, in this horizontal, kind of in this space with regards to licensing and pricing and things like that? That's pretty pervasive.
Everything I experience is through stories and through accounts of others. So I should preface that. But it seems that that's still very much the trend. And a lot of it, I don't even think is up to some companies' control. Not all companies are private. One of our huge benefits is that we are a privately held company. We have no investors. We have no debt. We have very little overhead. And so as a company, we can pivot and shift, change as the market requires very quickly. Companies that have, thousands or hundreds and thousands of employees with shareholders and investors and have gone through buy sells, they can't just change their business model. It would be very difficult for them to change their business model, in fact. And so I don't even know that it's up to them on the licensing or their pricing. But I look at market disruption as being newcomers or companies that are small and flexible, have the ability to do that. And that's really right where we want to be. And so Canary has a scheduled price drop from, it's been going on for 2 years. It'll continue on to the year 2022. We have our pricing gradually being decreased every year. We believe that the data revolution is here. Every year we're producing as much data as been recorded in the history of mankind. I speak for the entire world. And an unlimited licensing model is the only way to move forward and collect all of that data. Users absolutely do not want to try to manage tag counts. And so we are progressively trying to continue to lower and lower and lower the bar for pricing and make unlimited more and more available. It's our goal to continue to offer that. Now, because of the space that we're in, there is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all model for what we do. Small little water, wastewater companies, municipalities, like the one in our back, half a mile from us here, they serve 4,000 people. And so unlimited's not even in their vocabulary. They need 300 tags and they need one user. So the balance for the database side is to keep pricing right for them. You can't just charge everyone the same thing. The oil and gas enterprise solution and the municipality water, wastewater treatment facility, there's no reason for them to have to both buy the same license. So we're constantly working on how to create packages that suit both of those customers and do so in a way that's overly fair to them and delivers great value.
Talk a little bit about the, now as obviously as the OT and IT start to converge a little bit, talk a little bit about, I guess, data collection and the ROI of that, right? We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm sure it's an easy thing when you talk about, millions of dollars of building a plant and equipment, things like that. But talk a little bit about to a customer who might be listening, of why would they want to collect all this data and what do you really do with it, right? How does it help them save money, I guess, is probably the end game of being able to steer the ship. But maybe talk a little bit about what that data collection really ultimately does for them, especially in the area, the age of big data. Everybody hears this.
Yeah. We're in the age of buzzwords, and it's intoxicating because you hear so many people talking about IoT, Industry 4.0, big data. But if you're the guy that's in charge of the bottling manufacturer plant, what does all that mean to you, right? If you've been running equipment the same way for the last 30 years and you're doing a good job at it, your company's profitable, you're growing, you've bought maybe 2 or 3 other facilities, why big data? Why start collecting data maybe that you don't? And I think it's a fair question. But at the end of the day, there's always room for more efficiency. And if you continue to do things the exact same way that you've been doing them with the exact same tools, you'll probably get similar results, unless something changes. So maybe you decide you want to try to change and become more efficient by hiring better people. Maybe you want to try to have better operators, better maintenance programs, and source through a better integrator that can provide you with the newer technology. Well, data powers all of those decisions. For instance, you might run a typical maintenance interval. You might say, we're going to run this line until it hits 5,000 hours of production, and then we're going to take the line down, we're going to retool this section of it, and we're going to do this routine maintenance on the latter section. Well, what if the line didn't need to come down at 5,000 hours? What if the line actually, if it got brought offline at 3,000 hours, would prove out that it would have less risk of stoppage for the next 9 months? Or what if you could actually run it to 10,000 hours? Well, if you don't have data that helps you learn and actually prove out these questions and these theories, then you're just really throwing darts with a blindfold on. And worse yet, your logic and your thinking can become circular. You can say, because it's working now the way that I'm doing it must be the best way. I once had an integrator tell me a story about 3 operators, and it's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week facility, so they run 3 shifts of operation. And he said that when the first operator sits down, he changes all the set points, changes his operation schedule, and runs it. The second shift operator comes in, does the exact same thing. And then the third shift operator comes in, first thing he does, changes set points, changes the way the equipment gets operated. He asked me, he said, Jeff, who do you think of the 3 operators is doing it properly. First shift, second shift, or third shift. I took a stab and said, well, probably first shift. That's the more desirable shift. I'd imagine that guy's been there longer. He's probably got the most knowledge. He's probably doing it right. And he looked at me and said, no, the answer is all three of them are wrong. And that's because when we allow someone to set things and run them the way they think they should be, they probably could do a great job, but they're probably not doing the best job. And so when we collect data and we can start making comparisons to the way that things are operating, when we can start to say, the best time we ever saw in our facility was when this, and this happened. Now we have something that we can go back and start making comparisons to. It's amazing the number of things our clients find that they didn't know were a problem, or that they knew there was a problem there, but they didn't really have the tool set or the time to really dig in and look for it. So one of our oil and gas customers, in their proof of concept, and I know I'm mentioning oil and gas a lot, but in the oil and gas industry, a small change usually means large revenue savings. And in the proof of concept, because one of the unique features to Canary is a calculation tool. So actually in our trending software, you can run very long advanced calculations of multiple trends and output the results onto the trend graph. And this customer had this feeling that somewhere the power factor ratio on one of their compressor stations was not optimized, but he never really had a way to test that. And if he was to try to do it, he might have gone down a 40-hour work week with no real results. When he saw the calculation tool, he said, oh, this is interesting. And we found out the next day that he spent about 2.5 hours. And in that 2.5 hour time, figured out that the compressor station that he had in mind had a power factor ratio that indeed was off and was going to net the company over $1.5 million of energy savings per year once adjusted. Single compressor station. Take that out over their entire pipeline, and we're talking massive amount of revenue. Great story. We won the job. They made the change, and it's a huge success for both of us. But those are the type of things that when you give people that have the ability, tools that are easy to use, and then you power that with data, not data that gets deleted, not data that gets interpolated, because there's a big difference. Either you keep the data, the millions and millions and millions of data reads, either you keep it in raw format. It's not been manipulated. It's not been run through interpolative algorithms. Whatever that sensor put out, that's what you store. And you keep it for years, decades if you want. So that 5 years from now, I can look at my line, I can look at my equipment, and I can compare it to what actually was going on from 5 years ago or 10 years or 15 years ago. We live in an age where data storage is not an issue. You can get an industrial grade 10 terabyte hard drives for $1,000, $2,000. We have 20,000 tag historians that have been recording data for 10 years that are under 5 terabytes of data. So data storage is not an issue. We can store the data. Why not store it in raw format? The only reason not to do that is because your engine can't handle the performance aspect. And that's somewhere where Canary really has shined due to the technology behind our product. We can keep all of this data in raw format, keep it for decades, and you can access the data from today or from 10 years ago at the exact same speeds, over 4 million updates per second. So long-winded, I know, and I apologize if it got sales pitchy, but I'm really passionate about what drives our solution. Data doesn't lie. If you have access to the data, you have the ability through a tool set to look at it, you can improve your process. You can figure out what makes you money and what costs you money, and you can begin to fine-tune that process.
No, that's super interesting, and it's funny because we talk about how data is not an issue, and you mentioned numbers in there, and it makes me think of we used to think a terabyte was a lot, right? And we used to think 500 megabytes was a lot, and so I'm wondering if hey, if somebody's listening to this 10 years from now, will 10 terabytes be a lot? Probably not. Will 4 million updates or processing things per second or teraflops per second, whatever, will that be a lot? Probably not. As we enter the age of machine learning and AI and faster computing, it'll be amazing of what things will be able to do, especially when you think about, again, AI and self-driving cars and things like that. The computing has to be 3 times as fast as what it is today to really probably handle everyday life.
Well, and that's the age that we're headed into. And I think you bring up a great point. Funny anecdote, my 11-year-old son saw a manual typewriter the other day and was fascinated with it. You know, the little metal round keys, you press it and the letter comes up and strikes the page. And he said, "Dad, this is going to catch on. People are really going to enjoy these things." I just kind of laughed. But no, so we're moving into an age where we want things to happen automatically. We want more and more automation. We're seeing the demand in the workspace. And all the time I keep hearing machine learning, machine learning, machine learning. Absolutely. Why not? There's amazing companies that are doing incredible things in the machine learning space. Why should we rely solely on doing things the way we have been doing them? There's certainly value there, but let's fine tune it. But here's the catch: machine learning only works with extremely large amounts of data being dumped into it. If you're not collecting raw data, don't even think about machine learning. It's not going to be optimized until you're collecting raw data. And so when we have companies and customers talking to us about machine learning and they're not collecting data yet, we really try to slow it down and say, hey, we need to do a crawl, walk, run. Machine learning is expensive. Machine learning requires a lot of output of time and resources. Let's start with just collecting the data. Most companies that we work with on the machine learning side, which is not something Canary does, nor do we see ourselves going down that road. Instead, we find good partners. We say, first let's collect the data. Most of these companies tell us they want 12 months to 18 months, sometimes 2 years of good raw data to really be able to optimize machine learning. They also want sometimes 20 to 30 instances of failure so that they can take the raw data, take the failures, and start to look for correlation. If you're not collecting the raw data, that's step one, that's crawling. And then walking is, you'll find that once you actually start collecting the data and you give access to the data to your people, that they're going to find ways to be more efficient right out the gate. You don't need to go down the next step until you've learned to crawl and walk. And then when it's time to run, that's where the machine learning piece really comes in. And so if you're not collecting data yet, or if you're new to collecting data, you've probably got 1 year to 2 years time until you're ready to even discuss machine learning. And the way that technology is advancing, the way that pricing model is changing, it's really exciting to see what it'll look like in 2 years.
You had mentioned that success story where the you had one, it was a generator, I think you had mentioned, where you took something offline, or if one node in the network basically affected millions of dollars in revenue. Who's in charge of looking at the data and finding that? Does the customer themselves, are they enabled with software to find that? Does a system integrator help them find that? Do you guys help them do that? Who's the one that, you've got all this data, so who is really empowered or can go in and say, geez, I see this trend, or I see these error rates with the raw data, and now I can make these correlations? Who's really good at
great
doing
question.
that? Yeah.
And really, I wish there was a quick, easy answer, but it depends on the organization. The more revenue the organization has, the more likely they've got top talent that has the knowledge base to know what to look for. Smaller corporations they may not have the process engineers that can help with this. And so in either case, system integrators are valuable resources. We're seeing, just in the clients that we work with, we're seeing clients have a severe issue with finding the talent that they would need to be able to pull from to be able to do that. Or if they do find the talent, they don't have the resources to hire them because of what the demand in the marketplace is driving the salaries and the benefit packages. And so system integrators can service multiple accounts. Of course, the integrators are listening know this. They're probably screaming it from the mountaintops. We're right there beside you telling customers, you need a good CSIA system integrator. But the system integrators are going to have such a huge role in helping companies move into this, because companies have a hard time just trying to figure out the IT side, how to make IT and OT work. They need someone who can really stand in that gap and say, here's the products that you can use, here's the solutions that can help you solve this problem, and here's where we would say is to start the focus, here's where we think we can return an ROI, and then we can expand this out. And so that's why we love our system integrators and our partners, because they get it. We can show them the technology, and immediately they start to put the pieces in place. They immediately know what clients need it, what clients are good on their own, and how to develop the technology to help. Now, on the Canary side, we do have the ability to help, but what we don't have the process knowledge. We're in 14 industries. We don't know the difference between how you should operate your compressor station on this for this type of natural gas versus this liquid. We don't have that knowledge. But the system integrators and some of the companies, they absolutely do.
Excellent. And what do you think is driving? I mean, this may be a chicken and egg question, but who's driving, or what is driving this convergence of OT and IT? Is it the availability that because you guys exist and have been out there, and now they're like, oh, here's an opportunity, let's apply this and put everything online and put this onto the plant floor? Or is there a demand for this convergence, and then you guys are filling that gap? I guess I'm trying to understand, why is this coming together? What is there a singularity somewhere?
Yeah. Good old American capitalism, Tony.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody's competing. They're looking for an edge. They're looking for what will make their company more successful, help them to, fund the next piece of the puzzle they need to advance in their market share. And so the idea of separating IT and OT, while it certainly has merit, I get it. From the security side, IT departments are tasked with such a huge job, and our hats off to them. But at the same time, companies have to balance the need to be able to make data available to everybody within the organization. Because if you continue to keep people from the data, you can't expect great things and new results. And so what we're starting to see is IT being tasked to the OT side, working alongside OT. And that's one of the things that's made Canary a very favorable solution. OT can actually deploy our solution. So anyone, for the most part, can deploy a Canary solution. IT feels very good about the security when they start to actually look at it and they realize that they can put databases in the field that they don't have to manage, that they don't have to go hire a DB administrator to run this solution. Or when a company that doesn't even have an IT department, maybe they contract out their IT, or I'm thinking of municipalities, they share citywide resources for IT. When you take guys that are used to the operations side and you show them how simple they can actually run a database and give data to their people, it's just a wonderful, wonderful merging of technology that equals success.
Excellent. Tell us how can a customer be a good customer? I guess when, and I mean that genuinely, because, I think a lot of customers will say, I'm looking for a good system integrator, but I think a lot of times, and this is usually a question I ask because it's important to know and I guess realize that sometimes when the customer specs something out and this is how we want it to work and this is how it should be, but a lot of times when a system integrator gets their hands on it from a design standpoint, they might look at this and say, no, this is really not the solution. Let's start over, or let's put some stuff, some cogs and some gears in some different areas here, figuratively speaking. And this is really the solution you need. What you're asking for is really not what's best for you. So from a standpoint, either from a larger project or from maybe employing you guys, what kind of questions should they ask? What should they kind of bring to you guys when they're shopping for a historian and even larger kind of other suppliers out there?
Yeah, I think the answer to this is the reason I don't day trade stocks, Tony, because I know what I don't know. And in fact, you could write books and fill them with things I don't know, and fill rooms and buildings called libraries with things I don't know. There's a few things that I know really well. And those are the things in life that I put a lot of my own confidence in. And those are the things that I'm more likely to blaze my own trail. The best customers that we see are the customers that recognize what they do and what they don't know. They might be very good at making a widget, or very good at producing, turning raw product into profit, but they might be very bad at understanding control architecture or data migration or the best ways to collect data. And so that's where I think really customers that recognize what they're good at and what they're not so good at, and then turn to people that can give them good advice, like system integrators, they see success. And then the other side of that is great feedback. So our product feature development and our future roadmap is 75% customer driven. We are always asking customers, share with us what you like, share with us what you need. Send us your charts. Show us what your trend charts look like. Tell us how you're using the trend charts. When we see this type of thing, of course we're under NDAs. We're not sharing the data, but from internally, we can better develop our product to suit customers' needs when we know what those needs are. We love it when we have customers say, hey, it would be so cool if your product does this, or man, I wish it could do that. Because that's almost guaranteed to get on our roadmap when we hear that.
Very good. This is something I'm guilty of in the past of having a solution in my mind. And so instead of telling the person I need help from is asking, can you help me do this? I usually would have something in mind of like, hey, Bob, this is can we do this in Excel? Because how do I do this in Excel? And really the answer was something completely or whatever. Yeah. Or, and not even, and I'm just, coming from a sales background, I wanted to get access to some sort of thing. I wanted to do something on my computer or something like that. And I would go to the IT guy and he and I butted heads sometimes here, but I had immense respect for him because he'd always redirect me somehow. I'd go in there like, hey, can we do this? Or can I do this? Or how do I do this in my thing? And he'd say, wait a minute, what do you want to do?
There you go.
Right. So begin with the end in mind. And then I'd say, oh, well, here's really what I want. And usually the solution, most of the time, the solution was nothing close to what I had thought it would be, or the solution was. So, that's why I kind of think of that sometimes of like, I don't think I'm the only one that do that. I think customers sometimes, maybe they have some in-house expertise and maybe with a preconceived idea about what the solution is. And let's just hire these people and come in and to do that.
And it's a catch-22, right? Because what makes you great at your job is that, and I speak for you and I speak for, people in the space, that what makes them great at their job is they're creators, they're builders, they're doers, they're fixers. But there's certain times that you have to say to yourself, this is something I shouldn't try to build. We have clients that sometimes we'll go down a proof of concept with, and they don't choose us, they don't choose anyone. They say, you know what, we think we're gonna build this out ourselves. And on the sales side, we put a 6-month and a 12-month follow-up in, because we know when they go down this path that the likelihood of success is pretty narrow. There's certain things that you should tackle, there's certain things that you shouldn't. And learning what those things are and aren't is, I think, really a key to success in business. Especially when you consider, one of our full-blown unlimited type of solutions here on a SaaS model, where we're doing everything. We're doing all the lifting. We're doing the hosting. You're just consuming data through your web browser. That can be, in some cases, under $10,000 a month. That's what it costs you to hire one person to try to manage that solution or try to build it yourself. I mean, it's a no-brainer. You can deploy a solution in 30 days and completely up. All the screens built, all the trends, the whole company trained, if you let someone else do it. Or you can spend 2 years trying to do it yourself, taking your eye off the ball. What is that thing that makes you money? Keep your focus on that. Pay good people with good product to do the rest. Yeah,
it's the old adage of penny wise and pound foolish, I think, sometimes, right? So, and scalability and economies of scale, things like that.
Absolutely.
Very good.
Absolutely.
So, Jeff, let's shift gears here a little bit. Let's talk about you a little bit here, and tell us. First of all, tell us kind of where you grew up and where did you go to school, and what do you do there? What is your role there?
Yeah. So I'm a Maryland guy originally. So don't ever try to give me a crab cake unless I'm in Maryland. I know what they should taste like. Went to school, a small private school called Barton College for my first 2 years. In Wilson, North Carolina, tobacco capital of the East Coast. And then I ended up University of Texas, San Antonio, go Roadrunners. And my background is really in communications. Never in a million years would I have thought that I would be the executive director for business development for an industrial software company. I would have told you something completely different, even when I was coming out of my major. But I love what I do because it's problem it's problem solving and it's client focused. There's something amazing about being able to take a guy like me or a woman that is in the field and they want to deliver better value to their employer. They want to manage their time better. They want to give their employees or the people they're tasked to manage better tools. And frankly, they want to build a legacy for themselves, for their company. And at the end of the day, they want to go home and not have to worry about work. And so to be able to help people do that and solve those problems really adds value to my life. And I love, in my business role, being able to find good partners. A lot of you integrators that are watching this, if we haven't had a chance to meet, I really do hope we get a chance to. The integrators that I know and love, we just love the fact that we get to be, part of your support group and helping drive your customers' solutions.
What tell me a little bit about kind of, so you majored in communications, you have a communications degree, right?
Yeah, so psychology, actually.
Psychology, okay.
Yeah, which I found out the hard way. You better go for a lot more years than I did if you want to do well in the psychology field. It's a tough space, very crowded. But if there's anything I learned in that field, I think it's the idea of communication, the idea of being able to understand where someone else is coming from, and then a long sales history after that of just trying to find win-win solutions. So
Gotcha.
It's got to work for you.
Take me from those, like being I don't know, maybe I don't know if you thought about the academic track maybe of psychology, but take me from that young Jeff, 22 years old, fresh out of school. How do you take me from there to now? How do you discover data and this sort of thing?
Yeah, very wise person. I hate the fact I don't know who to attribute this quote to, but they said that you are the same person the next day, aside from the books you read and the people you meet. And I truly, truly believe that. So for me personally, I think two traits that I naturally probably have that have really helped me professionally is I'm an avid reader. And I really enjoy networking. I enjoy this. I'm not a guy that's shy from the camera. So I like face-to-face interaction, or in this crazy world we live in, Wisconsin to Pennsylvania, high-speed internet, HD network interaction. And so for me, really, I've been around the right people. I've read the right things. I've listened to the right podcast. And I've always had just kind of an inquisitive nature to learn more. And I got to know Gary and Ed Stern actually here locally. And one day, this is interesting, my son had a birthday party, and one of the workers here at Canary's son's good friends with my son. And I asked him, I said, hey, what is it you do again? What's this Canary thing? Remind you, we're a town of 3,000 people. We've got a world-class software company that's been in business for 30 years, 18,000 installations, 50 countries, in a town with more cows than people. And no one knows what we do inside of our own town. And he explained it to me, and I was really fascinated. I started asking questions. And next thing you know, I was meeting with Gary and Ed and said, hey, I'd love to learn more. Would you mind if I come in and do some consultant type of stuff? And it turned into a beautiful work relationship that has been a huge blessing to me. And I hope it's been the same to this company and those that work with us.
How long have you been there?
2.5 years. So I'm still new. This company has an average tenure of 11 years per employee. So I've got a lot of, I'm bringing that down. They probably shouldn't have hired me.
Bringing down the average.
Yeah, I could have had a better stat. But now what's neat is Gary and Ed have 13 children between the two of them. And it looks like we'll have 5 or 6 of them that'll carry on the legacy within Canary. And so I really hope that my role in the company, because I'm approaching 40 very quickly, and most of those kids are in the teen and early 20 years. And so I'm really hoping that I get to play a role of helping hand off the company from Gary and Ed into their children and just keeping the legacy.
Excellent. Tell me, Jeff, what are some of the skills you find most useful in your day-to-day work, whether they're managerial or soft skills or technical things that you've learned? What are some of the things that you think make you successful?
Yeah, it's a great question. I wish I had a great answer for you. I really think trying to just stay people focused, remembering that we're as a company, we're not perfect. Our software is going to have bugs. Our software is going to occasionally be in a situation where it's not responding the way that we would like, and that when those type of things happen, or better yet, when someone comes to us and says, "Hey, I've got this problem I really need to solve," approach it from a person-to-person aspect, not from a company-to-company aspect. So when that phone rings and I'm talking to my buddy Eric at the City of Rochester water treatment facility, Eric's got a problem that Eric needs to solve. And so what can we do as a team to facilitate that problem solution for Eric? And so keeping it personal like that, I really think changes the experience. You hear nightmares from customers about trying to call in for customer support. And so we've engineered it so that when you call Canary, you're talking to a support person without ever going through a phone menu. And most of our support cases get solved in the first phone call. If not, we have almost a 90% 24-hour turn success rate. And so those are the type of things that I think when you really put customers as your main focus, you see results. And so that's something that has been ingrained in me just in my work history. I don't think it was ever up to me. It's just the way that I've been programmed by the men and women that have taught me. So that's, I think, really one of the things that drives my success. And then understanding that we've got incredible people on our team. So I realized that I can't do everything that I want to do. I can't do it in my work relationships. I can't do it in my personal relationships. And so I have to learn that my no's deliver a better yes. So when I'm asked to do certain things, there's certain things I just can't do. I have to say no to. And so having a great team that I can hand those things off to allows me to be more powerful when I do say yes to something. And that's just the people that you surround yourself with. Andy Stanley, one of my favorite pastors out of Georgia, says that he tries to make himself the dumbest person in the room. And so he surrounds himself with great people, and that is not a problem for me. I can usually see to it that I'm not the smartest person in the room. And here at Canary, that's always the case. We've got very, very sharp people.
Excellent. Jeff rolls out of bed. How do you spend your next 90 minutes? What's the first 90 minutes look like?
I roll out of bed, and how do I spend my next 90 minutes? Was that the question?
Yep.
Oh, man. What bed am I rolling out of? I travel a good bit. So I'm going to give you the ideal scenario, and then I'm going to tell you how often that actually happens. So for me, I'm an early riser. So ideally, I would like to wake up at 5 o'clock. And I am a coffee addict. In fact, Tony, I give you the world's most expensive coffee mug.
What is this thing?
I've got a coffee mug, Tony, that has firmware.
Oh my gosh.
So I'll wake up in the morning and I'll hand grind some coffee. I'll do some pour over. I'll sit at my kitchen table on a great day where I'm sticking to it, man. I'm reading my Bible, doing devotion, spending some time alone. My wife will wake up about a half an hour later, and we'll spend the next 30 minutes together at our kitchen table just talking to each other. My kids come up right after that, 30 minutes with them, and then I'm off to work. So for me, truthfully, my first 90 minutes, I hold my Christian faith very near and dear. So time with the Lord, time with my wife, time with my kids, and then off I go. On the road, that gets wrecked and destroyed. But ideally, that's what I try to do. And I'm lucky enough to have some high school soccer coaching time in my schedule, so that keeps me fit. And then I try to read at night, try to avoid TV when I can. And on the road in my car, podcast like crazy.
What's your favorite podcast?
Oh man!
Besides this one, of course.
Yeah, this one. Which, if you haven't subscribed to it, subscribe right now. So I love Story Brand Podcast by Donald Miller and the Story Brand team. It's all about how to communicate a clear, concise message. So it sounds goofy, but if you ask anybody at Canary, we can tell you, what do? We store and analyze your sensor data. And that silly little 6 to 7 word phrase took me about 40 hours to get to. We work in an industry where none of our wives, none of our spouses, I keep saying wives, to the ladies, I'm sorry, your husbands, trying to communicate what you do each day is usually difficult. And if you can't communicate it to the people that know you, how do you communicate it to potential customers? So StoryBrand really helps with that. And then the NPR podcast, How I Built This or How I Built That, I absolutely love. Story of entrepreneurs and how they got from an idea to a successful company.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing. That. Yeah. Let's go back to your coffee mug here, because not everybody who might be listening to this know what you held up here. So describe what you have, kind of computerized coffee mug that you have there.
Yeah, I'm going to power it on here and show you. So what we have is the Ember, and the Ember is retailed out at Starbucks. And so I can put coffee in it or liquid in it. I'm actually out of coffee, so here I'll pour in some water so I can. It has a sensor. It knows when it's got liquid in it, and it has a heating element built into the base. So right now it is cold, but I'm going to tell it to heat up to 135 degrees, which is how I like a certain type of coffee.
Okay, so you've got a little thermostat setting on the bottom. You're screwing the bottom of this, and with a digital readout of 100 and some degrees here, 137 degrees.
So set your coffee to the temperature that is ideal, and off you go. You don't have to. One less thing you have to manage.
And another internet connected device, right? It must tell you what your average coffee time is that you drink coffee. It must be your average likability of temperature. Must tell you all these things.
It lets you know when you're at your ideal temperature. It actually puts another notification. Like, we need more notifications to our smartphones.
Right? Yes, exactly.
But I just love the fact that I have a coffee mug that has firmware. Like, if that's not the statement of the age we live in, I don't know what it is.
So now I bring this up. Now people might think, we're talking industrial automation. Why are you talking about a coffee mug with firmware? Yeah. Because it's Internet of Things. It's internet connected, presumably. I don't know if it has Wi-Fi, but hopefully some hacker out there cannot hack your coffee mug and turn it up to like 300 degrees so that you burn. These hackers are out there doing.
But you know what happens? And Ember folks, if you're listening, I'm sure Tony, I'll hopefully have some contact links at the end of this. Please get a hold of me, because here's what IIoT is all about, right? So let's say that maybe Ember's got 500,000 users, and half those have adopted the app and are actually transferring data. Well, guess what? I checked. The data transfer goes two ways. Not only is it transferring to the app, but the app's also transferring back to Ember. So now Ember has profiles. They have all kinds of data: frequency, the amount of coffee I drink, what type of temperatures I bring it to, how long it takes to get to those temperatures, what type of battery life, battery drainage, just the battery alone. Ember can source a new type of battery, mark that battery in the data of the new mugs that go out, compare the new battery technology to existing battery technology. As long as they have a place to keep all that data, they can make better decisions about their supply line, their parts, their future engineering. But it's the IoT space. It's when my toaster starts telling the factory how it's performing and how I like my toast, they can provide a better service and a better product in the future for me. So it's win-win, as long as, well, you know what I'm going to say, you have a way to collect the data.
That's right. I promise listeners and watchers, I did not plan that. That was a total perfect ending here. I think that's we can't do any better than that. So that was awesome. I love it. So Jeff, thank you so much for joining us. It was a great conversation. I hope that you enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Tony, thanks for having me. And I can't wait to see you and all of our friends, and hopefully some future partners at CSIA next week.
Very good. Jeff, why don't you give your name and plug your website there and company as well?
Yeah, Jeff Knepper with Canary Labs, www.canarylabs.com. I believe the only industrial database website that will let you use the product, price the product, and find all the information you need without ever having to talk to anybody on the sales side.
Very good. Well, it's in the land of Twitter. You made that claim out there. So, Twitter is a place where somebody will prove you wrong. It probably is true, but just be careful out there.
You know what I love about the internet, Tony? If you're doing a good job, everybody knows it. If you're doing a bad job,
everyone will know it. Exactly. This is Tony Verhoeven with CSIA, been talking industrial automation with Jeff Knepper of Canary Labs. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe in iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Help others find us by sharing your favorite episode with a colleague and give us a rating in iTunes. Visit CSIAexchange.com/podcast for a full list of episodes. Contact us at podcast@controlsys.org. podcast@controlsys.org. Thanks to bensound.com for the music.
Thanks for listening to the Talking Industrial Automation podcast. Read the Industrial Automation blog and find and research qualified system integrators at CSIAexchange.com. For more information on why your system integrator should be CSIA certified, visit controlsys.org. controlsys.org.